Or is this full-time MMA now?
I love full-time MMA right now.
Full-time MMA?
MMA.
Nothing else?
My life, man, yeah.
Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And during the Ultimate Fighter Season 27 finale, it was announced that Robert Whittaker's next opponent to challenge him for the UFC middleweight title will be Kelvin Gastelum after they coach the next season of the Ultimate Fighter Season 28. That's going to have heavyweights and female featherweights in the house, but it's going to be coached by Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum, who are going to square off for that middleweight title at the end of the show. Coming into this fight now, you know, this was, there were two guys that could be fighting Robert Whittaker. It was out of Chris Weidman, and it was out of Kelvin Gastelum. And if Whittaker had his choice, he would have liked to fight Chris Weidman at Madison Square Garden. But that's not how things shook out. Chris Weidman has been dealing with the injury himself. And speaking of injuries, Robert Whittaker was coming off of an injury out of his Yoel Romero fight. I believe he said he broke his hands in the fight. No, that was Kamaru Usman. He broke one of his hands or maybe a thumb, something. Robert Whittaker came out of that fight with more injuries, and in his first fight with Yoel Romero, he injured his leg in the first or second round, and he fought that fight with almost one leg. But also in between those injuries and fights, he had a pretty bad staph infection that forced him out of his UFC 221 fight with Luke Rockhold. So Robert Whittaker has been, to get the champion, he went through some tough guys like Jacare, Derek Brunson, and then of course Yoel Romero, and then he fought Yoel Romero again. So he's been fighting some really tough fights on top of dealing with some injuries. And so Kelvin Gastelum is questioning Robert Whittaker's condition after all of this stuff. He says, I don't know if he's going to be the same fighter after these fights. After these wars that he's been in, it takes a toll on the body. So we'll see how he comes out after this hand surgery that he had. So he came out of the Yoel Romero fight with a hand injury. First one, leg injury. In the middle, pretty bad staph infection. So Robert Whittaker's definitely been taking a toll. His body's been taking a toll. And not to mention Kelvin Gastelum's boxing and wrestling are exquisite. Kelvin Gastelum, don't let anything fool you. Don't let the fact that he lost to Chris Weidman fool you. Kelvin Gastelum is a serious threat to Robert Whittaker's title reign. This is not going to be an easy fight for Robert Whittaker, but none of his fights have been. When he fought Jacare, he was still in the top 4 of the division and looked at as one of the next potential title challengers. I mean, Robert Whittaker busted his way into this super stacked middleweight division. It's crazy, bro. The top 4, it used to be like the 4 horsemen that were in the middleweight division under Michael Bisping while they waited on that to be sorted out. The 4 horsemen were Yoel Romero, Jacare, Luke Rockhold, and Chris Weidman. And Robert Whittaker ended up having to fight Jacare after Derek Brunson, and he was on, I believe, like a 6-fight winning streak maybe at that point. But either way, he had to fight Jacare. A lot of people counted Whittaker out against Jacare. He came in there, stabbed off all of Jacare's takedowns, and ended up getting the TKO on Jacare. Looked amazing in that fight. But then he got an interim title fight because Bisping was injured, I believe. So he got an interim title fight with Yoel Romero. And so he ended up beating Yoel Romero. A lot of people counted Whittaker out of that fight. Like, man, he's been doing this thing, but this is Yoel Romero. He was able to not only beat Yoel Romero, but beat Yoel Romero almost on one leg for over half of the fight. Fucking super impressive. So he became the UFC's undisputed middleweight champion after George St. Pierre vacated the belt. That whole Michael Bisping GSP situation happened on top while Robert Whittaker was going through these murderous road to get to the belt. Now he's the champion, and he rematched Yoel Romero, defended his belt, but boy has he been taking his body been taking a toll, man. So with that being said, this is going to be a great fight. Either way it went for Robert Whittaker, it was going to be a hard fight. There's no easy fights as the fucking champion, especially in this middleweight division. If you're not fighting Gastelum, you're fighting Weidman. Either one of those fights is going to be a tough fight for Whittaker, but he's been through tough fights, and we'll see how he looks. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully going through this Ultimate Fighter season will give him time to heal up, heal his body even more before he fights Kelvin Gastelum. But Kelvin Gastelum's a beast. He's been on a Legends ass-kicking tour. He's beat everybody not named Chris Weidman in the middleweight division. He's beat guys like Tim Kennedy, Vitor Belfort, Michael Bisping, and so yeah, Kelvin Gastelum's definitely a beast. He's beat some legends of the sport. You might not say that they were in their prime, but either way, man, they're still very skilled fighters. And Kelvin Gastelum, even in his Weidman fight that he kind of got dominated in the wrestling department because Weidman's so much bigger, he still caught Chris Weidman with his, clean boxing in that first round. So Kelvin Gastelum's definitely a threat. He can finish guys. He can definitely wrestle. Just because he got out-wrestled by Chris Weidman doesn't mean he has bad wrestling. He's going to have great takedown defense and probably even be able to score a takedown of his own. I mean, it's Robert Whittaker is not a guy like Chris Weidman in the sense that he's been fighting at middleweight for his whole career, or you know what I'm saying? He's a guy that actually started his career at welterweight. So he moved up, and he moved up even before Kelvin Gastelum, and so he's been fighting at middleweight longer, and he was able to become the champion. But still, these guys are going to be similar in size. So this is, in my opinion, a really evenly matched title fight, as dominant as Robert Whittaker has been. So with that being said, Kelvin Gastelum is questioning his condition, which might even make him that much more confident coming into this title shot in the biggest fight of Kelvin Gastelum's life. He wants to show the world what an Ultimate Fighter is. He went from winning the Ultimate Fighter to coaching the Ultimate Fighter to get his title shot. We'll see what happens. This is going to be an amazing fight between Whittaker and Gastelum. And although I felt like it was crazy to think Whittaker was ducking Gastelum, and clearly he wasn't. If the UFC comes at him with Gastelum, he's going to take the Gastelum fight. It's not like he said, no, I want Weidman. No, he wasn't fucking ducking, for all you people that thought that. Clearly, he just took the fight. But that's when I thought people were kind of crazy. Like, to think Whittaker would duck Gastelum, that's crazy. But now the fight's here after the Ultimate Fighter Season 28, the last season of the Ultimate Fighter. So let the full-time family know what you guys think in the comments. And before we go, shout out to all the full-time MMA white belts that have hit the subscribe button. Make sure you also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. And if you want to become a full-time MMA blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, or black belt, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/fulltimemma. I'm out.
Da 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 da! It's the motherfucking DOG.